Hi guys, and welcome to another tutorial in Explain Mobile. Today I have a very interesting aeroplane. It's a Beechcraft Kingair C90. Yes, this is one of the most popular variant of the Beechcraft Kingair, which is actually the most manufactured turboprop aircraft in the world. The Kingair was introduced into active service in 1972, and it had military versions firstly, and then civilian versions were later made after. Um, Today we're going to make an interesting tutorial with this aeroplane because we are going to conduct an instrument landing approach procedure. So as you can see currently, I am at an altitude of 7,420 feet, and I'm cruising off just around 200 knots, just over 206 knots, and the speed is actually climbing. And I have a flight plan loaded onto this device right here, which is the Garmin 530 controller. If you look at it, I have a flight plan for the approach into Hawaii, one of Hawaii's islands, which is Lanai Airport. The procedure requires me to land at runway 3, which is located at an elevation of 1,308 feet above sea level. Today we have visual range at 2.5 miles, and there's no winds, but we have cloud cover starting all the way from 7,000 feet and stretching all the way down to 2,500 feet below. And another interesting fact for the weather today is that we have not one but two cloud covers, but the other is broken at 14,000, as you can see, and through it you might just be able to see the sunshine popping slightly from the left corner there. Alright, so with that in mind, the flight plan that I'm following requires me to follow a turn that I'm just about to head towards within a distance of 7.1 nautical miles, and I'm required to turn on a heading of 283 degrees. Then from there I'm going to Echo Yankee Papa Oscar. Then I'll line up with runway 03, as you can see, and in the case of a missed approach I'm required to climb runway heading to 1,800 feet and fly a holding pattern at Grammy. Now from the approach chart itself, it says climb to 1,800 feet, left turn to 3,500 feet, fire the heading 224 degrees, and Lima November Yankee VOTAC R278 to Grammy. And this procedure should be automatic because it's programmed in my flight route, so all I need is to manage the autopilot descent and configure the flaps and retract the landing gear. So let's have a more flight plan view of this approach. So if you look right now, I have a straight magenta line stretching all the way to my right. That's actually the approach that I'm required to be following. So if I zoom out, you can actually see the position of the airplane with the Echo Yankee approach, and I'm just going to make sure that the nav mode is selected on the autopilot. Now with this airplane, the mode control panel is not located near the main instrument. It's located down here, and you can see the autopilot is actually on. So I'm just going to select nav mode, and the airplane should quickly start following the procedure. If you look at the artificial horizon, the airplane is banking correspondingly with the left one as well, and we are now going towards that waypoint, and you can see how much the airplane is banked because you're above the clouds, and very soon we'll be popping into the clouds, and we'll pretty much be required to stay under instruments only because we are in IMC conditions, or instrument meteorological conditions. Alright, Speaking of which, at this moment it's very necessary for me to start my descent, but before that I'm going to put my propeller levers to maximum. Notice I have two levers on the right, which are the condition levers. The props are in the center, and on the left you have the engine power levers, which currently are at maximum. So props can go to maximum, and if you look at them at props, you can actually see them going up. And then I'm going to reduce speed. I'm going to put the engine power levers to 50%, and then I'm going to come back all the way to the autopilot panel here, and then I am going to select descent mode, and then I'm going to use this knob to push the aircraft down. So you can see it from here. This little button here says down, and the aeroplane must pitch down correspondingly to almost 1,000 feet per minute, which is good for descent. So my speed is now 201 knots for ground speed. It's now 200, which is also displayed on this Garmin display. Alright, so according to the flight plan, at Echo Yankee Papa Oscar, as you can see it right now, we are required to be at an altitude of 2,600 feet. So I'm going to select here 2,600 for the chime to give me a warning when I'm getting close to that. And if you follow the route, the purple is the active route of flight plan, part of the flight plan. Then after that we have the white line that stretches all the way past the airport and says 1800, and then after that it turns and says India November Tango Charlie. That's the missed approach procedure, with the missed approach altitude at 1,800 feet, and in a distance is Grammy, which is our holding pattern that will be required to follow just in case we have a missed approach. Alright, so the airplane is about to join onto this flight plan, and the speed has dropped pretty well to 198 knots. And then, interesting enough, we are about to be submerged into the cloud cover below. With that in mind, we have rains reported below the cloud cover, so I might need my windscreen wipers to be on all the time as we enter into these conditions. And there we are. We're now completely in IMC conditions, and looking out you can actually see the rain. So I'm going to select my windscreen wipers to the on position. Alright, the windscreen wipers are over here. I'm going to push them to fast, and there we have it. Alright, so with that in mind, we're just going to monitor the performance of the aircraft. I'm going to just put the engine power levers just right around this. 55% is fine. I'm maintaining 196 knots, and within 21 seconds of our estimated time, within 13 seconds, as you can see information appearing below, we will be doing a 10 to the left. And in 12 seconds from now, the airplane is going to turn towards the flight plan at exactly Echo Yankee Papa Oscar. And there we are, the turn starts now. As you can see, the movement of the compass starting to happen. There we go, the airplane is now turning. So there isn't physically a way to tell from the outside, but you can see the artificial horizon indicator. It will give us the information with regard to that. Alright, it seems like the flight plan is having problems, but I'll reload the flight plan. So I'm just going to go to the progress page, select an approach, ILS for runway 3, and activate. Alright, there we go, and nav mode selected. Alright, the nav mode had not been engaged, and now if you look down here, you can actually see that the airplane is now banking all the way to the left, and we have vertical speed selected and RNAV, and the autopilot is on. Alright, speed is now 208 knots, and our altitude is 5,800 feet. Alright, that's okay for now. So the interesting fact with this aeroplane is that you don't just get displays of instrument from one side, you get them also from this navigation display, which is Garmin 530. And if you look here, the indication of ground speed is pretty much the same, and I also have identification of the ILS in the corner here, which is India Lima November Yankee, which is the ILS for this runway that I'm currently selected for, and my standby frequency is 117.70, which is the VOR, as you can see, for Lima November Yankee, and distance to that airport is 4.1 nautical miles. So at this moment I'll keep the ILS frequency at active, which is 111.70 for India Lima November Yankee, as you can see on this Garmin 530. Alright, so we're heading towards the waypoint Oscar Julia Oscar Victor uniform, and according to the flight plan, from that waypoint I'm supposed to turn on a heading of 33 degrees as soon as I finish the turn, and it should join me onto Echo Yankee Papa Oscar, and that is very consistent with the information that I'm getting. Alright, so as you can see, currently there is pretty much nothing to see outside because we're submerged in 2,500 feet of cloud layer thickness, and you can see those wipers are working themselves out to keep the rains off the screens, off the windscreen. Alright, I think it's necessary for me to slow down just a little bit to 50% and increase my rate of descent rather. So I just push that down, and we're coming into 1,500 feet per minute. But I just want to maintain 1,000 feet per minute in terms of descent, and that's pretty much what we have. So I'm going to slow down the power just a little bit, and there we go. And props at maximum and condition levers at maximum. It's what's required at this moment. Outside air temperature has risen up to 6 degrees Celsius, so at this moment I can turn off the ice protection system for the windshield and the props, the stall and the pitted. Then I can also do the same here for the engine anti-ice protection system. I can turn it off because it's not required. So engine anti-ice off, and auto feather, I can arm that during my my final approach. We're 25 minutes into this flight, and we're just about to land. And this is quite interesting actually, being in Beechcraft Kingair C90. Another aspect is just to keep an eye on the right side, because I have a cost deviation indicator which is analog instead of the one on the right, which is a bit digital. So I'm going to select a heading of 33 degrees, so actually a cost of 330 of 33 degrees I'm in. And there we are. And then I'm going to select the autopilot heading back to that position as well. So I'm just going to check another different view here so that I can make that adjustment. Alright, there we are. And quite immediately I've also noticed that we have broken out of the cloud cover. We're now passing through 3,800 feet. But as you can tell, we are still in instrument conditions because there's nothing to see outside the airplane. We are flying in very low visibility, harsh weather conditions. But thankfully we do not have turbulence and crosswinds. Alright, there we go. There's the next 10. So the airplane is now banking for us to line up with Echo Yankee. And you can see the ocean down below. Alright, that was the chime telling us that we are approaching 2,600 feet. We are now within 1,000 feet of our descent altitude that we descending to. And localizer is now available for this airport. Our speed is 191 knots. So this moment I might just want to slow down a bit so that we can start configuring the aeroplane for landing by taking the first notch of flaps. Alright, so I have to monitor the flight of the airplane from this display, and you can see that the flight plan with Echo Yankee, Echo Papa Oscar is now active as I approach the required altitude, which is 2,600 feet, and my ground speed is now 184 knots. Yeah, I believe by the time we get there, the airplane would have descended to 2,600 feet. So I'm getting ready to arm the autopilot altitude hold. So one thing that might be interesting to note is that as you begin your final descent, you don't want to carry a lot of speed. Just in the case that you approach the airport slightly above the glide slope, you have enough time to pitch the airplane down and get within the range of the glide slope before you have to call it a missed approach. And so I might be forced to slow down the airplane pretty much to less than 140 knots as I begin my approach. And after all, with flaps, you can fly much slower speeds than that anyway. Alright, so I'm going to select altitude hold at this moment. Altitude hold has been selected. So the airplane will automatically adjust itself back to the altitude that I'm required to be at. But in the meantime, the ground speed will start to drop. Now we're at 169 knots, and very soon I will be taking my first flaps. Outside air temperature has risen to 10 degrees Celsius, which is fine. So having a look at this, we are now heading towards Echo Yankee Papa Oscar, and from there we will then line up with runway 3 and conduct the instrument approach as we get onto it. Ground speed is now 156 knots, so it is necessary for me to just give it a little bit of power, and we're going to go with first notch of flaps, which is 15 degrees for approach. Alright, there we go. So approach check, we have auto feather must be armed, and auto ignition must be armed, and landing lights must be on, and gear can come down. Alright. So if you look at the instrument, we're just about to make a turn to the right in order to line up with Echo Yankee, and we must be on a heading of 3 degrees. Since we are at correct altitude according to the flight plan, we're required to be at 2,600 feet or just anywhere within, and the airplane will start its turn just right away onto Echo Yankee. There we go. So we're now lining up with our runway heading. So that same waypoint is going to be our initial approach fix, which means that is the waypoint at which we initially get charged onto an instrument approach, since we're conducting an category 2 instrument landing approach. And now you can actually see the full flight plan with Papa Hotel November Yankee runway 3 shown at the top there. Alright, so there we go. Ground speed is now 112 knots. I'm going to increase power a bit. And try and maintain it. So one thing I can see at this moment is that I can see the localizer and the glide slope, even though I haven't armed the approach mode. So what I'm going to try to do at this moment is keep myself below the glide slope up until the moment that I arm the approach mode. I'm going to maintain level flight, and as soon as the airplane as soon as the glide slope starts to intercept the line that is horizontal next to the pitch bar, I will then arm the autopilot approach mode. Our flight plan is looking good as we approach UFR 52 seconds just before we reach Echo Yankee Papa Oscar, and minimum descent altitude or minimums for this flight is 1,588 feet. So at that altitude, if I'm not visual with the runway, I'll be required to abort the landing and conduct a missed approach. Yeah, I'm going to keep speed right around 100 knots. And there's Echo Yankee, and we are on a heading of 34 degrees, which is pretty close to what we need to be at. All right. So if you look at the information below, it's showing that we are from Oscar Julia Oscar Victor Uniform to Echo Yankee Papa Oscar, and estimated time is now 21 seconds to that waypoint. So the best view I can get for myself is from this angle, and there we are, starting 10 in 9 seconds. There we go. Distance tracking 34 degrees, starting 10 in 7 seconds. You can make the countdown at the bottom. Oops, sorry. In 4 seconds, in 3 seconds, 2, 1, and we'll be tracking 33 degrees right away. Alright, turning now, and at this moment I think we are now on the final approach, as you can see, so it's time for me to arm the approach mode. So I'll come over here to the autopilot, then autopilot approach mode is selected and glide slope indicated, and as you can see the airplane is automatically starting to descend. On that particular note, I'm going to take approach flaps and just confirm that the autopilot is doing the correct thing. So I have approach mode with glide slope and trim selected, and at this moment landing gears down, landing lights are on, taxi lights not required at this moment, and auto ignition is armed, so we're pretty much good for our approach. And if you look at this instrument here, it's showing that we're now 2,300 feet above ground, and we are lined up with the localizer and the glide slope. So the localizer is represented at the bottom, and the glide slope is represented laterally on the side of the artificial horizon instrument. At the bottom, it's showing that my ground speed is now 122 knots and we have maximum flaps, which is quite alright, and very soon we will be required to see the runway at 1,300 feet. So missed approach altitude is 1,800 feet. I'm going to enter that here. And minimum descent altitude is 1,500. Alright. So this moment I'm still required to say under instrument flight rules. But I'm just going to slow down the airplane a bit. Alright, there we go. We should be able to maintain enough speed to land the airplane. Okay, I am visual with runway. So at this moment, I can disable the autopilot. There we're coming on to 1,800. $1,780. We're following our flight plan. And at 1,500 we disconnect the autopilot and take manual control. So notice you have some pretty good visual range of the ground below. Alright, at this moment I'm going to disconnect the autopilot and fly the airplane manually. It's 500 feet above ground. And there we go. I'm lined up with a runway. And I can see the runway precision approach path indicator. It's showing too white, too red, which means I am on the correct altitude. Okay, so we've passed it through minimums and we can continue because we have runway inside at 12 o'clock position. And it's time for me to fly this thing straight onto the approach. So gears down, flaps are down, and everything is set for a landing. Now bear in mind, the Beechcraft Kingair has very poor visibility out of the cockpit. So whenever you're flying this airplane, you pretty much want to get a very good view from the outside before you pitch the aircraft, because in some instances, as soon as you pitch the nose up, you won't see anything outside. So my final VREF today is about 85 knots. So I'm going to aim for 85 knots on the final approach. That's kind of TBM territory of landing speed. Okay, we are almost there, and I'm going to cut the engine power out. And there we are. And touchdown. And thrust reverse. Yeah, we're in raining conditions, so this thing will take some time to slow down. There's 40 knots. And brakes. Alright, after takeoff, after landing checklist, I'm going to turn on taxi lights, runway turn off lights can landing lights can come off, and flaps can be retracted. I'm going to start my turn onto the right. Alright, I think I have alright, so there we are. We are now at our destination airport, and I might as well delete some of the flight plans that we loaded. Alright, so with this aircraft, what I'm simply supposed to do at this moment is taxi to the gate. I'm all looking down to the right here. And there's a taxiway immediately in front of me, which I can see from my right window. Yeah, as I mentioned, visibility with this aeroplane is pretty bad. Yeah, we're gonna take that right away. Bear in mind that we're in wet conditions, so as you begin a turn, you don't want to carry too much speed than necessary, because it may be harder to proceed with the turn as the aeroplane is all too slippery, and in some cases you may not be able to stop at the position that we want to. So here we are. I'm just going to park the aeroplane somewhere right in front here. There's some nice hangar buildings right in front. Alright, anyway, flaps are up. The next thing is I'm going to turn off the lights. Taxi light can come off. Auto ignition can come off. Yeah, we're here, right in front of the buildings. Look, the airplane just stopped right in front of these buildings, which are hangars actually. Alright, after landing, auto ignition can come off. Inverter can come off. Anti-ice is already off. Master avionics can remain on for now, and autopilot is off. That is verified, and the levers, prop levers, can go to the off position. Condition levers can come to low idle. There we are. Engine power lever is in the cut-off position. Navigation lights can come off, and strobe can come off. Alright, and then master avionics can come off, so turn off the avionics screens, and AFIS panel can come off as well. Rudder boost can go off. AFIS power can come off, and yaw damper can come off as well. And the flight director must have been turned off. Alright, with that in mind, we have stopped the clock Coventry, and then the microphone can come off. Then the engines can go to the cutoff position, fuel cutoff, and windscreen wipers must be in the off position as well. As you can see, those props dying out, and boost pump must be off, which it is, and all the pumps must go to the off position. And then finally, the battery master switch can come off. And there you have it. everything back to a cold and dark state. So once again, thank you guys for watching this video, and there will be more coming in the future, but for now this is it for this tutorial of how to land Kingair in IFR conditions. So till then, you guys take care and enjoy yourself, but I'll leave you with one final look of this aeroplane from the exterior. Okay, cheers everybody. I'm out.